misconception I want to add is that people think that I can just be on this medication and don't really need to do anything else. But it's so important to put the work in because it works with you. It's not going to work like on you necessarily. So it's very important to make sure that you're getting the right diet, that you're exercising, because even if you eat like really bad food and you do nothing, I mean, it might help a little bit, but you're not going to see the results that you want. So it's
Yes,
very
and
important
girl,
to
it's gonna
emphasize
come
that.
right back. It's gonna come right back. If you eat horrible food, but just in smaller amounts, and the minute you come off this medication, you're gonna gain the weight back.
Yes.
For sure.
Welcome to the Weigh In podcast, your prescription for a healthier life, where wellness is more than just a number on a scale. I'm Czarina, a nurse practitioner with a passion for preventative health and helping others find their balance.
And I'm Katie, also a nurse practitioner. We'll dive deep into not just weight loss, but the medical, emotional, and lifestyle aspects of well-being. Together, we bring you the latest health tips, medical insights, and wellness strategies to transform your life. So tune in, take notes, and let's take this journey together. Remember, it's not just about the weight on the scale, but about creating a healthier, more balanced you.
In each episode, we'll weigh in on hot topics, ranging from diet myths and exercise trends to mental health and chronic disease management, providing you with evidence-based advice to guide your health decisions.
We'll also invite experts from various health fields to share their knowledge and answer your burning questions, giving you the tools you need to achieve and maintain your health goals.
Whether you're looking to shed pounds, manage a health condition, or just live a happier, healthier life, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this episode of the Weigh In podcast, your prescription for a healthier life. So first, we just want to do a quick introduction to each other, and so you guys can get to know us better. So Katie, I'll let you start off.
My name is Katie. I am a family nurse practitioner. I own a weight loss practice in Havertown, Pennsylvania called Fire Weight and Wellness. My background is in emergency medicine, which I have done for over a decade. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And I'm Czarina. I work here in Los Angeles, California, and my clinic is called the A-List Clinic, where we do weight loss, and soon we'll be adding men's health and other services.
Yay.
And I also do telehealth all over California as well. And my background is in medical surgical nursing, and I've been doing it for a little over 10 years. And yeah, I just wanted to also talk about why I got into weight loss is because a lot of our patients at the hospital just have a lot of conditions, especially diabetes and high blood pressure, and they're overweight. And I was just wondering, how can we stop this from getting worse? So once I
Yeah.
learned about these amazing weight loss meds, which we will talk about later, I wanted to be part of that. And the impact that it's made on my clients and their overall mental health, physical health has been amazing. And so,
That's
Katie,
awesome.
yeah, what has your experience been with weight loss medications?
Well, I got into this because I lost weight myself. I am a mom of two boys, and with the second kid, I gained a ton of weight, and I really struggled to get that weight off. And it wasn't like 5 or 10 pounds. I had a lot of weight to lose. So I actually lost 70 pounds, and it was amazing. It was great to kind of feel like myself again, but I can totally empathize with that feeling of feeling uncomfortable in your own skin because you feel like you're so over what is a comfortable weight for you. And so, yeah, that's sort of how I got into weight loss and why I love it so much.
Amazing. So let's talk about the different weight loss meds that are out there. We've got Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound.
hmm
What are the differences with all these meds?
So Ozempic and Wegovy have sort of the same ingredient in them, which is semaglutide. So if you kind of think as like Ozempic and Wegovy as kind of being like the brand names, finger quotes, and semaglutide kind of almost being the generic, even though it's sort of the main ingredient in those drugs. That's what people are talking about when you sort of see on TikTok and in the news, people are saying Ozempic, Wegovy, semaglutide, they're all kind of referring to the same thing.
Okay,
And then Zepbound and Mounjaro, again, similar concept, and their sort of generic is
great. And I know that these medications came out like in 2017. So they're not particularly like brand new to the world
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's been around for a while. And originally it was intended for diabetes, right?
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
it was intended for diabetes, although I would argue that very early on, primary care providers caught on to the fact that it definitely can help with weight loss, and it was being prescribed off label for weight loss for quite some time. But I think something that we kind of want people to keep in mind is even though it feels like a brand new medication because it's gotten all this recent press and hype recently, it's actually not that new or that experimental to those of us that are in the medical field.
Right. And it does have FDA approval now for weight loss because they've done
Mm-hmm.
trials with patients that have had diabetes and then, like you said, noticed that they've lost a lot of weight. So now it's not off label anymore. It's completely intended for weight loss.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
tell me, like, how much do these meds cost for the brand name drugs?
Ooh, they are expensive if your insurance doesn't cover it. Which, let me just say, even if your insurance does cover it, and for your sake, for anybody listening that wants to try these drugs, I hope that it does. Even if it does cover it, access and availability is a totally separate issue. But if you're trying to get this medication and your insurance doesn't cover it, and you were to go to like your regular run of the mill pharmacy, let's call it like a CVS or a Rite Aid, you're probably going to be paying over $1,000 for a 1 month supply.
Oof.
And this sort of is what we'll talk about in future episodes, but this is why so many people have decided to opt for compounded medications, where typically you're looking at way under $1,000, oftentimes in the $300 to $500 range, for an effect that maybe many would argue is essentially the same.
Okay, so yeah, what are compounded medications and how do we get them?
Compounded medications come from compounding pharmacies, not to sound silly, but that's essentially where they come from. These medications are sometimes mixed with other drugs or with other sort of vitamins. So, for example, a common combination might be that the pharmacy mixes semaglutide with maybe a little bit of B12, which oftentimes is actually, something that can be helpful or beneficial to people because it can help offset some of your nausea, help with your energy levels, etc. But these compounding pharmacies oftentimes mix these medications. I think as a client or as a patient, the main difference you notice is that it doesn't come in like a cute little pen, like when you get Ozempic. It comes up like a vial, and then you have like a needle and syringe. So that's sort of the main thing that as a patient that you notice. I also should add that compounding pharmacies do not exist just to make weight loss medications. They're used for lots of different things, especially let's say you have some like strange allergy and you need a medication and CVS doesn't offer it. Oftentimes, a compounding pharmacy is what would mix that medication to not have that dye or whatever it is that you're allergic to.
Okay, very cool. And what are the differences with like semaglutide and tirzepatide?
Yeah, so semaglutide works on one hunger hormone, and tirzepatide works on two hunger hormones. Tirzepatide is sort of a newer drug that's been out, that's become very popular. But semaglutide is kind of like not to be slept on. It's a great drug, and people can lose a ton. And when I mean a ton of weight on this medication and do well. They're both very effective drugs.
Great. And like what are the side effects associated with these medications and like contraindications?
Most common side effects, I would argue, are nausea, fatigue, headaches, constipation is a biggie.
Hmm.
Sometimes you'll notice that some of your like GERD or reflux symptoms are a little bit exacerbated when you're on these drugs. But those are sort of the main ones that I would say.
Okay. And overall, does it seem pretty manageable?
Yes, especially if you're doing these drugs with good medical oversight, most people find these side effects to be manageable. And people also find that when they're on them for a little bit of time, that a lot of the side effects sort of start to even out a little bit, and they find them less cumbersome.
Great. And who would you not recommend this medication to? Like what are the contraindications with injectables?
Oh, yeah. Well, there are a few. One of the main ones is if you have a family history of medullary thyroid cancer, you should probably not take this drug. That's probably a big one. That probably is, the one that we all think of as medical providers when we think of people that shouldn't take semaglutide. I should add that, most of us check labs before we put you on these medications, just to kind of make sure that your kidneys look good and that there's no other major health concerns that would preclude you from being on these medications.
Great. And also, I also just check a good thorough history and make sure that, they haven't had a history of pancreatitis or
Yes.
gallbladder
Yep.
disease, because, yeah, these medications can kind of overstimulate that. And then more cautious too with patients that have had gastric bypass surgery, because another thing that we've heard in the news is like the gastroparesis that could happen too, which is really rare, but just something to look out for when you have a client with that history.
Yes, certainly. Those are all sort of adverse effects that you want to be careful of. Is when you are at these medications, you are at increased risk for pancreatitis, for gallbladder disease, for gastroparesis, for bowel obstruction. These are all sort of the scary things that can happen on these medications. Certainly, as a patient, you want to kind of weigh the risk benefits, but there certainly are some things to be aware of prior to starting your medication.
Right. And what are the common misconceptions with the GLP-1 medications?
There's a lot. There's a lot. I love TikTok and social media, but oof, lots and lots of misconceptions. I would say the biggest one is people think that this is going to be a quick thing. Like, oh my gosh, I saw this
Mm.
girl on TikTok. She lost weight so quickly. She lost like 1,000,000 pounds. I'm ready for that. Give me that drug. But like, just because she lost it in a 3 minute like reel reel on Instagram does not mean that it's quick. Typically, what we tell people is that for the first month, you may not experience much of any weight loss at all. Most people and most medical providers will start you on a low dose for the first 4 weeks. And the majority of clients don't feel much effect during these first 4 weeks. After that, they'll start to titrate your dose up, sort of until you are feeling the effects of the drug. And once you get to your target dose, Serena, it is super obvious. Like you'll feel like even if you wanted to finish your food, you wouldn't be able to. I think is the way that most people describe it. It's pretty marked and you notice it, but how long it takes to get to that point varies from patient to patient. And so there's no way that anyone can ever promise you that if you start semaglutide on May 1st, that you'll lose 20 pounds by June 1st. It's not a realistic expectation. You should expect to be on these medications for at least a few months.
Good to know. Because yeah, on average, from my personal experience with my clients, they've lost about, 20 pounds within 4 months. And another misconception I want to add is that people think that I can just be on this medication and don't really need to do anything else. But it's so important to put the work in because it works with you. It's not going to work like on you necessarily. So it's very important to make sure that you're getting the right diet, that you're exercising, because even if you eat like really bad food and you do nothing, I mean, it might help a little bit, but you're not going to see the results that you want. So it's
Yes,
very
and
important
girl,
to
it's gonna
emphasize
come
that.
right back. It's gonna come right back. If you eat horrible food, but just in smaller amounts, then the minute you come off this medication, you're gonna gain the weight back.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. But they have done studies on this, that you do on average lose 10 to 15% of your body weight, which is converts to like 33 pounds over 68 weeks. And that's an actual research study. But, on average, with any weight loss program, you want to be losing like half a pound to a pound a week, which averages out to like 5 pounds a month. So it's a little bit uncommon to see like 10, 20 pounds weight loss in a month. And so it's slow and steady is our goal.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
want the type of weight loss that's going to come off. These meds are not cheap, regardless of how you get them. You don't want to spend money on these drugs and then gain the weight back and have to do this whole thing all over again, or worse
Hmm.
yet, be like, I wasted money. These drugs are kind of like they're not a fad, they're not a fake thing, they're real. They really do help with weight loss, but you do have to do it the right way.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, let's talk more about that. Like, do people regain weight when they get off of these medications?
um Sort of the description I gave you before about how, like, yes, if you eat nothing but, like, I don't know, fried chicken and cupcakes, in smaller amounts, and then you go off the drug and you're hungry and eat those things, then sure, yeah, you can regain the weight, and even to a lesser extent you can regain the weight. In general, the more times that you have tried to lose weight, the higher risk you are for regaining weight, regardless of what sort of modality of weight loss you use. But that being said, I think that if you do a formalized weight loss program of any kind, and you create healthy lifestyle habits, that you very much so can keep the stuff off, keep the weight off for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
And there's just another misconception too that like obesity is a chronic disease. Like it got classified as a chronic disease back in 2012, and a lot of doctors still don't have a good understanding about it and often think that it's the patient's fault for not eating right and everything, not exercising. So for some people, like this is a long-term medication because again, it's a disease. It's
Sure.
not like you take, people off of insulin if they're diabetic. They need to stay on it. So of course, case by case basis, but just really
Certainly.
understanding that obesity is a disease. So
Yes. And you also don't need to be morbidly obese necessarily to be on these drugs. That's another common misconception is, oh my gosh, like I went to my doctor and he told me that I just was I'm not finger quotes fat enough to be on this drug. And that patient might have like a BMI of like 29 or 30. And I'm like, you actually are appropriate to go on these drugs. So yeah, it is a very common misconception for sure.
right. And I think another misconception too is like for people that want to lose like maybe 10 pounds or so, like they're like, oh, I want to get in this Ozempic. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
At this clinic, especially, we're getting a lot of people who have been on everything. Every weight loss drug that's out there, they've tried every weight loss program, they have tried it all. And although, yes, you can be like, it's just 10 pounds, girl, be strong. At the end of the day, it's still 10 pounds that you're not comfortable having on you. And like I said, particularly if you're overweight or obese, and these are the 10 pounds that are throwing you into those categories, I think it's completely appropriate to help you by using some of these drugs.
Absolutely. So, aside from the injectables, what are some other options for weight loss meds?
Oh, there's actually a decent amount. There are a lot of oral medications. There's the tried and trues like phentermine, and then some of the older drugs like diethylpropion. There's Contrave, which is commonly used oftentimes for like binge eating disorder. And there's sort of brand names for other medications like phentermine and Topamax, for example. There's also alternatives to doing prescription drugs. You can do supplements. You can do IV infusions. You can do nothing at all. You don't have to take drugs in order to lose weight necessarily. You may be somebody who is a candidate for these drugs or who would like to use these drugs to facilitate the weight loss. But for what it's worth, it shouldn't be that just because the whole world seems to be obsessed with semaglutide, you don't necessarily have to be obsessed with semaglutide if that is not a modality of weight loss that you want to do right now. So yeah, I know here, at least at my clinic, we definitely have a lot of clients who just don't want to do anything at all. And that's okay. I think a real important part of being a good medical provider is meeting people where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other meds that you mentioned, like phentermine, I know there's a quicker weight loss for that. So I guess if you need to lose weight for an event or something, that might be more appropriate for you. Because again, like you mentioned, semaglutide, tirzepatide, those are much slower weight loss drugs.
For
And
sure.
so, yeah, really important for someone to know what the differences are and what their goals are. And like you said, meeting them where they're at. And
For
so,
sure, for sure. A lot of times I think of that phentermine patient as being like that bride who maybe is like a little bit overweight, wants to lose 10 pounds before the wedding, but doesn't really have any issues with sort of like ongoing, lifelong obesity. And kind of just has that 10 pounds to get off.
yeah, very cool. So, yeah, what other upcoming episodes will be on the podcast?
Yes. Well, you know what, Serena, before we go into that, I realized that we forgot to tell everybody how we know each other. Um, we are not strangers or like random NPs that that kind of just like happen to see each other in the street. Serena and I are friends, despite having a huge distance between us. I'm in Pennsylvania and she's in California. I think a long story short is basically we met online, and I saw that she had a really cool clinic, and we had a lot of things in common, and we started chatting after that. And since then, we've gotten to hang out a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. We both started at the same time too. Like I
Really
think
cool.
yeah, May, I'm sorry, not May, February of
Mm-hmm.
last year. So
Yep.
it's been cool to go on this journey together. And now we have so much experience and so much clients to talk about. So yeah, really excited to share that knowledge with you all. But yeah, as far as upcoming episodes, we'll definitely dive more into how Katie lost her weight and did she
Mm-hmm.
keep it off,
Yep.
and especially men's
I'm gonna
health.
spill all the tea.
Nice. So yeah, and men's health, we wanted to not disclude, like, sorry, not exclude our guys, because it's very important for you, for them as well to be included because they might feel like, oh, weight loss, it's such a girly thing, or they just feel embarrassed. But it is an issue with guys as well, and sometimes, again, like it's not just weight; it's also could be related to your testosterone. So we'll touch a little bit on that with testosterone replacement therapy. And we also wanted to include how to manage a diet with a busy lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
especially with moms and,
Yep.
the kiddos that
Yep.
are,
Soccer
yeah,
and baseball season are upon us, friends. To all my fellow moms out there, it's a super busy time of year, and it's really hard to figure out how to get it all done and still focus on
yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. And then we also want to touch on aesthetics because that's
Yes.
also a big thing here in LA, especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, when are you ready to start getting into fillers or, we could even talk about liposuction, all that
Lipo.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely. We also are going to touch on some women's health topics. A lot of you that are listening in may be losing weight because you want to start fertility treatments. A lot of you that are struggling with weight loss might be in that stage of life called menopause, where you're really struggling with hormones as a factor as well. And we'll kind of be weighing in on some of that and sort of help give you some tips that might make this transition a little bit easier.
Yeah, and then we'll also include some clients that we've had that have been on the medication, and I also want to touch on gastric bypass surgery and talk about that experience. So we're going to come at it from different angles, and we also want to include about mental health and wellness as well, because that plays a huge aspect with the relationship with food, and we want to do a deep dive in that as well. So
Yep.
those are just a few things to look forward to.
Yes.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, give us a rating, and share it with your family and friends who might find it helpful.
And remember, we love hearing from our listeners. Please connect with us on our social media channels. Reach out to us via email with your thoughts, with any questions that you want us to ask on air, or any suggestions that you have for future topics. You can check out our website, www.theweighInNPs.com, and please follow us on Instagram at theweighInNPs.
And if you're also interested in booking a consultation with either of us, if you're located in Pennsylvania, we got Katie at Lightfire Weight and Wellness. Her Instagram is at
Life
Lightfire
Fire Weight.
Weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're in California, mine is at the A-List Clinic or the alistclinic.com.
Yes.
Your engagement truly makes the way in a richer and more dynamic conversation. So please keep those comments coming.
And before we say goodbye, we want to leave you with one final thought. Wellness is not a one time achievement, it's a continuous journey. Please be patient with yourself and take it one step at a time.
Thanks again for tuning in the Weigh In podcast with your hosts, Katie and Czarina. Until then, take care and be well.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
The information in this podcast is for general information only. It is not intended as medical advice and should not be relied upon as a substitute for medical consultation with a qualified medical provider familiar with your medical needs.